Hi everyone, welcome back here to our channel and to this week's video. So today we'll talk about how to become an attorney. And I've basically narrowed it down to 5 steps for you guys. Only 5 steps to becoming an attorney. Now, before we get started, I just want to say that a lot of this sort of comes from my own journey and my own experience. And in my day and up until recently, the profession was regulated by the Attorneys Act and the Law Society. And nowadays, obviously, we have the Legal Practice Council and the Legal Practice Act and the Legal Practice Council that regulates the profession. So some of the terminology I use might be a bit outdated, but I've kept the steps broad enough so that the journeys will pretty much still be the same. Now let's get right into it, guys, and deal with step number 1. So step number 1 is obtaining your law degree. Now, the law degree is the LLB, and you can obtain that at any of the South African universities, and you can expect that it usually will take you 4 years to obtain your law degree. Now, maybe just some practical things to keep in mind here. If you still need to take this step, obviously recognize that each university will have their own admission requirements, so it's important to understand what a particular university requires in order to come and study there, to make sure that you meet these requirements. Maybe a second point to make is, and thinking a bit ahead about applying for articles, is although it's not a legal requirement, but if you are in a position to, and if you can, maybe combine your LLB with another degree, because that makes you just a bit more knowledgeable in other areas as well. And it certainly looks good on an application for articles if you can put down more than just one degree. Again, it's not a legal requirement. It's more than enough to have your LLB and get articles in that way. But it's something to consider if you are in a position to, and if you can, to sort of better your application, to consider combining your LLB with another degree. Now, of course, if you do that, you must appreciate that it won't take the usual 4 years. It might take a bit longer to complete your journey at university, but that's not such a bad thing, guys. In the bigger scheme of things, that's a exciting time of your life. And if you are in a position to, it's nice if you can extend it for as long as possible. Anyway, that's the first step to becoming an attorney, is obtaining your LLB degree as a minimum. Now this takes us to step number 2, which is completing your articles of clerkship. Now, this is a 2-year process. So for a period of 2 years, you are required to work with an admitted attorney or a firm of attorneys. And the idea here is to give you a bit and a feel of what it's like to practice law. Now, this is also, of course, where you find out how little you actually know, no matter how good you may have been at school or at university, because this is where you find out there's a big difference between knowing something and knowing the law, specifically in this case, and applying it so as to solve real life problems for individuals, companies, and businesses. So this is a very important part of your journey to becoming an attorney, is this 2-year process of working as an articled clerk or a candidate attorney. Now, a tip here to consider is, if you are applying for articles of clerkship, try to get to a firm where they practice in different areas of law, and not just 1 or 2, but a broad spectrum of legal fields. And the reason why is this step is important because it also gives you an understanding of what it's like to practice in a certain area. And obviously, the more practice areas you are exposed to, the better it puts you in a position to understand what's a good fit for you and what you might consider be a good career opportunity for you for your future. So it's a good idea to try and get into a firm with different legal areas if you can. Anyway, guys, that's step number 2. Now we move to step number 3, which is completing practical legal training. Now, this is just basically a tick box exercise where you need to make sure that you complete a certain set of coursework that's also set out as part of your journey on becoming an attorney. So there'll be various courses you need to attend, and you just need to be sure that you know what they are and that you attend enough of them so that you get the sign off that you have completely successfully, or that you have completed this part of the journey successfully. Now, this leads me to step number 4, which is completing successfully your attorney's admissions exams. Now, this won't be new to you. This is an examination that you write and where you get tested on most of the things you've done on the previous step, and also hopefully which you now have some practical experience of because you've encountered them as you've done your articles of clerkship. But as I remember, normally it's 4 papers we need to write and pass. There's one dealing with civil procedure in the Match Court and High Court, and also incorporates a section on the Road Accident Fund. There's another paper dealing with legal accounting. There's a paper dealing with administrating deceased estates, and there's a paper dealing with legal ethics. So you need to be sure to pass all 4 to tick step number 4. Now, this takes me to the final step of becoming an attorney, which is step number 5. And this is where you make application to the High Court to be admitted as an attorney. Now, this steps involved you, as some of you might know, applications on the in the High Court is made on notice of motion and founding affidavit. So in your founding affidavit, you will set out the facts on affidavit, all the detailed facts as to why you should be admitted as an attorney. And in there, you will deal with the fact that you've dealt with all the requirements we've discussed now. For example, you state there that on such and such a date you obtained an LLB at this university, and as proof of that, you attach a copy of your degree, and so on and so on and so on, guys. And now this notice of motion and affidavit with supporting documents will be your set of papers, and you'll have to make sure that you enroll your application on the relevant date for when those matters are heard. Usually there's a specific date to hear applications or admission applications like this. And then you, of course, also need to make sure that you brief an advocate to appear on your behalf in court to stand up and move the application. And then when the big day arrives, everyone will go to court. Usually your family will come with you to support you and to witness this big event for you in your life. And when the judge calls your matter, your advocate will stand up, and your advocate will say something like, my lord, my lady, I appear on behalf of the applicant in this matter. This is an application for the admission of the applicant as an attorney of the High Court. My lord and my lady, I submit that the papers are in order and that a proper case has been made for the admission of the applicant as an attorney. And if the court so pleases, we move that an order be granted in terms of the draft order attached to the notice of motion. And if the court agrees, the court will grant you that order, and that will mark the end of your journey because you are now admitted as an attorney of the High Court. Now, guys, that's basically the journey that it takes to become an attorney. I hope you have found some value in that. I don't know where you are on your journey, but I certainly hope you found some value in that in this video. Good luck with your journey. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you back here next week. Until then, take care and cheers for now.